Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're unpacking Bonnie Garmus's incredibly sharp debut novel, Lessons in Chemistry. This isn't just another historical novel, it truly stands apart. One reviewer aptly described it as a book that grabs the past by the lapels, shoves it up against a laboratory wall, and demands to know why women were denied beakers, Bunsen burners, and basic humanity. I mean, what an image. Our protagonist, Elizabeth Zott, is just. She's a force of nature, a brilliant chemist, a staunch atheist, an unwilling TV cook, and yeah, an accidental feminist icon. That same reviewer said she accidentally sets fire to the patriarchy. It's brilliant. This book is such a unique blend. You've got scientific procedural, social satire, and a love story that, as the review puts it so well, refuses to romanticize anything except the periodic table. So for you, our listener, we'll be breaking down how Garmus masterfully uses scientific principles as this powerful, almost alchemical metaphor for life struggles, the barriers we face, and the sheer power of resistance.
Yeah, and a key insight that really emerges from this novel is how Garmus takes a very specific time, the early 1950s, and this singular character, Elizabeth Zott, and uses her to reveal these universal truths about knowledge, societal barriers, and the profound importance of, well, personal agency. So our mission today is really to extract the core insights from this really compelling book review, helping us understand its unique voice, its clever structure, and the lasting impact it's clearly already having.
And at the heart of it all is Elizabeth Zott herself,
Yeah.
introduced as 5'10" of inconvenient intelligence.
Yeah.
She's certainly not your average protagonist, is she? I mean, this is a woman who, as the review points out, measures her menstrual cycle against atomic weights and insists her dog, 630, eats steak because, well, protein is non-negotiable.
Right.
Her flaw, if you can even call it that, isn't arrogance. It's just an unyielding commitment to accuracy. She simply sees the world's idiocies too clearly and seems to lack that social filter,
Yeah, completely.
One of the most memorable examples is when she corrects a priest's chemistry during a funeral.
Oh, yeah.
It's described as both appalling and exhilarating. She refuses to misstate the boiling point of water, even for God himself.
Exactly. It's that uncompromising nature, isn't it?
It makes me wonder, how does Garmus manage to make a character so utterly devoted to correctness appealing?
Yeah.
Almost heroic, even, without making her seem, arrogant or preachy.
That's a fantastic point because, as the review notes, readers slowly, resentfully fall in love with her, which is such a great description. I think part of it is the sheer conviction she embodies, even when it's deeply inconvenient. The novel's triumph, really, is making her correctness heroic without sanding off her edges. She's still prickly. And this offers a powerful insight for us, I think. True heroism isn't always about outward charm or, palatability. It often resides in an unyielding, almost inconvenient devotion to truth and integrity, especially when society demands compromise. For you listening, consider how often society, particularly for women, expects us to be palatable over precise, to be charming rather than just, well, correct. Elizabeth Zott utterly rejects that expectation.
And the narrative voice absolutely reinforces that unique character, doesn't it? The book is told in the third person, but the lens is so close it feels like a personal window viewed through a microscope with the precision of a titration. And for those unfamiliar, titration is a highly precise lab experiment where you measure exactly how much of one solution is needed to react perfectly with another. So that gives you a sense of the meticulousness. The author uses this incredibly sharp, dry wit. For instance, Elizabeth observes that Calvin Evans was the only man she'd met whose ego did not expand to fill the available space.
Great line.
And when her boss claims women lack chemical aptitude, she doesn't argue. She responds by discovering a new element of contempt. Just brilliant. The humor here is like dry, ice-visible steam, sub-zero burn. But it's never just for laughs.
No.
Every joke is tethered to genuine peril. This precision of language, especially in describing the stakes, feels incredibly deliberate.
And building on what you said about the narrative voice, it's clear the scientific framing isn't just a stylistic choice. It actually weaponizes language itself. One of the most powerful descriptions from the review captures this perfectly. In a deeply unsettling scene where Elizabeth is assaulted by a senior colleague. The description is given with this almost chilling forensic detachment.
Right.
She noted the molecular weight of his fist, approximately 0.3 kilograms, velocity 4 meters per second, impact site, left mandible.
Wow.
This doesn't diminish the violence at all, but it uses science to frame the observation, turning the observer into the observed, almost as a coping mechanism, perhaps, or just a way to process the incomprehensible. This is part of what the review calls the gallows humor with a periodic table that runs through the book.
Like when she distills coffee through a Buchner funnel that's a type of lab filter, or builds a DNA double helix from paper clips during a lecture.
Exactly. The humor is not relief from tension, it is tension weaponized. It asks you, how does observing something scientifically, even something deeply personal or traumatic, change your perception of its impact? It feels like a way of reclaiming control through intellect.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of impact, the book's structure is also incredibly deliberate. The review calls it episodic combustion. The chapter titles themselves foreshadow both a chemical process and an emotional arc. You get things like introduction to combustion or crystallization. The pacing is absolutely relentless. It throws you through lab sabotage, an unwanted pregnancy, a televised revolution, even a courtroom showdown. It just keeps coming. And the flashbacks aren't just there to fill in backstory. They're used like a reflux condenser.
Which, in a lab.
Right, it's a piece of equipment that cools vapors so they condense back into liquid, preventing them from escaping. Here, it ensures that grief never evaporates into easy sentiment. It constantly brings those raw emotions back to the surface, building this emotional intensity.
It's such a clever way to handle emotional fallout without it feeling, melodramatic.
Yeah.
And that relentless pacing is often driven by the novel's antagonists, who, as the review points out, aren't your typical mustache-twirling misogynists, but rather systemic inertia wearing a lab coat, which is such a perfect phrase for it.
It really is.
Think about Dr. Donati, who steals Elizabeth's research, or the television sponsor terrified of losing detergent ads, or even the judge in the custody case who genuinely believes he's acting in the child's best interest. The real brilliance here, I think, lies in the novel's profound insight that oppression often smells like aftershave and sounds like concern. It's less about individual malice and more about these deeply entrenched societal structures that just resist change. For you, listening, it really raises the question. How do these subtle, often well-intentioned forms of oppression resonate with your own observations of bias, maybe in various systems, the workplace, or even social settings?
It's almost harder to fight than overt malice, isn't it? Because it's so embedded in the fabric of society. It's a powerful point, and it makes you realize how insidious that kind of oppression can be. But amidst all this, there's also this exothermic love story that ignites with Calvin Evans. He's a Nobel-nominated chemist, described as a regent that should react violently with Elizabeth.
Right, like they shouldn't mix well on paper.
Exactly. Their courtship is naturally conducted through titration competitions and late-night debates on concepts like the electron affinity of halogens.
Which is basically a measure of how strongly an atom attracts electrons. So, very nerdy pillow talk.
Truly showing how their connection was built on intellectual and scientific rigor. And the sex, described as a highly efficient transfer of energy, accompanied by significant release of heat.
Both erotic and hilariously scientifically accurate.
Precisely. But then, tragedy strikes. Calvin dies in a bicycle accident, hit by a police car chasing a communist. Just awful. And Elizabeth's grief is rendered as a phase change, her solid personality sublimating into gas.
Meaning going directly from solid to gas, bypassing liquid?
Right. Leaving behind only the residue of rage. The novel really anatomizes widowhood, refusing to romanticize it or offer easy comfort. It's raw.
And this raw, unromanticized depiction carries right through to motherhood. Elizabeth's relationship with her daughter, Madeline, is framed as a series of chemical equations. You have input, love, a catalyst, time, and the output. A child who asks for a microscope for her 7th birthday.
Naturally.
As a single mother, Elizabeth breastfeeds while grading doctoral theses, builds a home lab from baby food jars, and teaches Madeline the periodic table instead of bedtime prayers. But what's crucial is that the novel avoids the sainted single mother trap. Elizabeth is impatient, occasionally terrifying, always exhausted.
Yeah, very real.
There's that wonderful quote where Madeline asks why they don't go to church, and Elizabeth replies, "Because carbon is more reliable than clergy," delivered crucially with weary affection. For you, listening, maybe consider how the novel's scientific lens allows for a more honest, more complex portrayal of love and grief than traditional romance or family narratives often do. It strips away sentimentality, focuses on fundamental truths.
This is where the story takes such a fascinating turn, too. After being fired from the lab for being pregnant, unmarried, and utterly unrepentant, Elizabeth is forced into this career shift. She's recruited to host Supper at 6, a daytime cooking show.
Quite the pivot.
Right. The producers, of course, expect her to just smile and stir bechamel. But Elizabeth, being Elizabeth, instead teaches the molecular structure of mayonnaise and famously advises viewers, never trust a man who can't make a roux.
Classic Elizabeth.
The show quickly becomes this Trojan horse, effectively smuggling chemistry into kitchens and pipetting feminism into suburbia. There's that brilliant example where she demonstrates how to neutralize acidic tomato sauce, which becomes a coded lesson on how to neutralize workplace harassment. Add bicarbonate, add backbone. It's such a subtle yet powerful rebellion happening right there on daytime TV.
And the impact is immediate and profound, isn't it? Ratings explode. Housewives across America started demanding beakers instead of spatulas. The network executives are panicking, the audience is cheering, and the patriarchy develops heartburn. I love that line from the review.
Me too.
Zooming out from this detail, what this beautifully illustrates is how knowledge, when presented effectively and with conviction, can be such a powerful tool for liberation, for social change, even in the most unexpected arenas, like a cooking show.
But looking at it from another angle, how much of Elizabeth's success here do you think was down to her scientific rigor versus simply her refusal to conform? That clearly resonated with her audience, too.
That's a great question. I think it's a potent mix, really. Her scientific rigor gave her the authority, absolutely. But her refusal to conform gave her the relatability, that spark that truly captivated viewers who were also feeling constrained in their own lives.
Good point.
It all builds to the finale, a courtroom scene that truly doubles as a chemistry demonstration. It's fantastic. Elizabeth proves that Dr. Donati falsified data by revealing that his control sample contained a contaminant only found in male urine.
Meaning he had...
Yes,
Yeah.
spilled in the beaker. It's a powerful moment of victory, vindicating her intellect and her integrity after everything.
Yet the novel refuses easy triumphalism, doesn't it? The ending is described quite uniquely as crystallization, not catharsis.
Exactly. Elizabeth wins custody, she keeps her show, she secures funding for her research, but the very last image is her sweeping broken glass from her lab floor. It's such a potent image.
It really is.
It suggests progress measured not in confetti, but in shards you can finally name. Progress is messy, it's incremental.
And that final sentence. She measured the exact volume of her life and found it sufficient.
It's both scientific and almost sacramental. It depicts a woman who has learned to titrate joy.
To precisely measure and define what brings her contentment, rather than expecting some overwhelming emotional flood.
Exactly. And the legacy of this book is incredible already. It's inspired real-world STEM scholarships, chemistry-themed book clubs, university courses like Elizabeth Zott and the Semiotics of Science.
It's even given readers this idea of a new periodic element. Zodium symbols Zt, atomic weight, exactly as heavy as the world's condensation, half-life, until the next woman decides to measure it herself. Just perfect.
It is. So for you listening, maybe think about this. What's the difference between a triumphant ending and a sufficient one? And why might that distinction matter more in the context of long-term change and personal fulfillment?
That's a deep question. Ultimately, this deep dive into lessons in chemistry reveals that the ordinary can indeed be extraordinary, and the scientific can be profoundly human.
Absolutely. The book really prompts us to view our own surroundings, our own lives, with a kind of fresh suspicion, doesn't it? Always looking beneath the surface.
It does. That saucepan in your kitchen, well, maybe that's a crucible, that wooden spoon, a stir stick, and every single recipe you follow, it's a potential experiment in resistance. So consider this. What seemingly mundane parts of your life, maybe like a kitchen or just a daily routine, could actually be a crucible for resistance, or a laboratory for profound personal discovery if you just look at them through a different lens. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.